Hello, Virgo, and welcome to your reading. This is Bright Soul Collective Tarot. My name is Laura, and these will be your intuitive insights for mid-March into the beginning of April 2023. This reading will be for Virgo, Sun, Moon, and Rising. So by all means, if you know your three major placements, you can listen to any and all of the readings that apply, as each one may resonate for you differently. And as always, before we get started, please do keep in mind these readings are general in nature. That means it's meant to apply to a more broad collective of individuals, meaning that not necessarily all the details that come through will be for you. Definitely take anything and everything that does resonate for you, however that makes sense, and whatever that might connect to in your personal circumstances. Definitely use your discretion in determining what is best and what you might carry forward with you, and you can simply leave the rest. So Virgo, happy March. I hope you're all doing well. I'm so excited to be here and connecting with you, and really looking forward to getting into your reading. I've got your oracle message here. We will pull some tarot. I'll share with you a couple of channeled messages that I connected with before beginning your reading, and then we will finish off with a couple of final oracle messages for some additional insight and clarity. So right before we jump into the cards, I am going to take a quick minute to share with you the energetic impression that I was picking up on as I was connecting to your energy and pre-shuffling for the reading. And the first thing that kind of came through was a sense of being like a little bit out of alignment in some way. So for example, like saying one thing but doing another, or even like thinking one thing and saying another. So it's like maybe when it comes to expressing yourself or getting your message across, it's kind of the idea like you're thinking about what you want to say, but it's not coming out that way. Like the words that are coming out are not necessarily the words that you're thinking about in your head. So that, I don't know, that could be a challenge and maybe something that's showing up for you. It did kind of pertain specifically to communication, but as always, like in terms of our energy, anything and everything can be out of alignment. So I would say like a focus on thoughts, words, actions. So there might be a little bit of trouble getting everything on the same page, or perhaps communicating ideas the way that they kind of show up in your mind. Or it could be that you're on the receiving end of some kind of miscommunication like that, perhaps. The next thing that it kind of sensed was like being in a little bit of a rush, like maybe feeling kind of hurried or even harried. Like harried is kind of like a chaotic energy, like a sense of kind of scrambling maybe to get things done. And I got the sense that it could be that there isn't necessarily a huge amount of pressure or a need to rush, but it might just be some anxiety about whatever it is that you're doing, or perhaps other things on your list that need to be checked off next that are inspiring a little bit of this kind of rushed energy when it might not need to be the case. So yeah, I would just check in with yourself anytime that you're feeling stressed or rushed or hurried, and just check in with yourself and see where that's coming from, because it could just be that there's some anxiety lingering there. It could that maybe you're not completely aware of, and in kind of identifying and working through whatever you're feeling anxious about, you might be able to kind of redirect your power, because you don't want to be like bleeding all that energy. Obviously we want to be productive and get things done, but you don't want to be bleeding energy, being like stressed and rushed trying to get things done if you don't need to be. So you might find that there's an opportunity to give yourself a little bit of a break, and still be productive at the same time. And the one other random thing that popped in was the sportsman show. So that kind of pertains to like hunting, fishing, outdoors. I don't know if you have any connection to that, or that's something that might be on your mind. But the last thing that I was kind of picking up on in your energy was a sense of maybe being prone to daydreaming, or like distraction, kind of getting lost in your mind, in your thoughts. And the fact that like you might know that that's something you do, but you might not realize when you're doing it until you're like in the middle of a full-blown daydream and you realize you're not paying attention to what you're doing. So that could be making things a little bit more difficult for you in the present moment if there's stuff that you're trying to focus on or get done and your mind is just kind of wandering off. And if you do experience something like that, I would say daydreaming can be a really beneficial thing. It can be really beneficial, especially because it can give us the quiet space to connect with our creativity and to kind of channel inspiration. So it definitely has its use and it can be really even cathartic. And I would say perhaps if you are finding yourself daydreaming in the midst of other practical things that you need to do or focus on, making sure that you're intentionally setting aside time for yourself to like check in, to get quiet, to maybe daydream a little bit and see what inspiration might come up to the surface. And if you have that time set aside for yourself and you've got that regular outlet, then it should make it a little bit easier to focus on, the other more practical things because you've got that outlet. So you might be being called to connect on a more creative level, and perhaps that's why the daydreaming is a thing, if that is something that you resonate with. But yeah, that's just something to keep in mind. So we'll get into your cards. So your card for this time period is showing up as Yin, which is kind of a nice energy. This is very much an energy of flow, being in the flow, allowing things to move as they will, and being kind of being at the effect of life. And I know that a lot of times, even in terms of personal development, we say like you want to be at the cause of your life, not at the effect of your life, right? Because a lot of times when we are at the effect of our lives, especially in challenging situations, that can leave us feeling like victimized, which ultimately causes us to surrender our power and undermine our personal authority. But this energy is not so much like giving up our power, but it's more recognizing that there are periods of time where we're meant to kind of take charge, take action, go out and move things in the world. And there are other times where we're meant to receive and to be moved and to let other people step up and kind of get the ball rolling or, show us what we're working with. And so that's a really beautiful energy, and it depends on like we're all different, right? We've all got different personalities and goals. So this may be an energy that you're really familiar with and really comfortable with, or it might be something that is difficult for you to do. If you're somebody who has like big dreams and big ideas and you're accustomed to kind of being in a leadership role, being the one to direct others, to oversee others, and to kind of get things going, it could be difficult to allow yourself to take a bit of a backseat. And it's the recognition that even if we're taking a backseat and we're letting other people step up and do the work or like take the action, it doesn't mean that we're not contributing. It doesn't mean that we're being lazy, because there's something, it's basically saying in this energy where you're going to be open and receptive, there's something to receive, right? There's something for you to become aware of and to be open to receiving that can be beneficial to you. And it's very difficult to be able to receive insight or clarity or inspiration or to, connect with opportunity when you are in a forward-facing, forward-moving energy where you're taking action and in control. So this is about releasing our expectations, releasing the need to be in control, and allowing yourself to take in your experiences, right? So whether it be in work relationships, romantic relationships, friendships, it's kind of like all across the board. Like, let other people tell you who they are. Let them show you through their actions, and pay attention to what people are doing. Pay attention to what they're saying, what they're showing you, what they're giving you to work with. And then you can determine, what you need to do as a result. And so it's kind of like, even if you've got an idea of what it is that you want to achieve, this is a really good time to see what's going on around you. What are you working with? What kind of resources are available to you? Because it's almost like waiting for other people to play their hand before you play yours. There can be a strategy. And when I talk about strategy, we're not talking in terms of like, manipulating circumstances, but it's saying like sometimes it's better to kind of like not be the first one to act, because when other people step up, then it might give you more resources, or it might give you information that makes, the path forward clear. And so this basically says, don't mistake this, slow energy of being open and receptive and being willing to see what life is showing you, or see what is, being revealed. Don't mistake that for, stagnation, or, a lack of motivation or anything like that. This is basically saying like it's about being more open and flexible in terms of how things might come to be. So whatever it is that you're trying to connect with, whatever project you might have on the go, or whatever that thing is for you that you've been kind of focusing on, or trying to move toward, it's about kind of loosening the vision a little bit and figuring out like, okay, yes, you might know that this specific thing is what you want to achieve. This energy is saying, what if you were to focus on how it is that you want to feel, like how you want to feel at the end of it and what you want to experience, and hold that feeling, hold that energy and be open to the way that that might transform. Because sometimes when we are in the masculine energy, which is kind of like, it can be kind of aggressive and very, it can be impatient, it can be forward moving and like needing to kind of control and micromanage everything. This is saying like there is a potential for things to unfold in a way that's going to be really beneficial to you, that you might not even have, considered, and that you wouldn't necessarily be able to plan and control and orchestrate yourself. Right. And so the benefit of being open to receive is that sometimes things can unfold even more easily for you. And you don't have to be the one taking charge or taking action or making things happen. Right. And I think that's a kind of like a fallacy that is pumped out a lot in this like grind and hustle culture, is that you just kind of have to constantly be working, constantly be moving, constantly be productive, and exhausting yourself and, making things happen, which, there are times to do that. But, sometimes we absolutely miss the opportunity to flow with life and flow into abundance by allowing the world to show us, allowing the people around us and the opportunities available to us to present themselves, instead of kind of steamrolling right over them. So it's just basically kind of like loosening your grip on how it's going to take form, and hold the feeling, and be open to seeing how that might take shape. Right? So it's kind of having a little bit of curiosity. And this energy also requires trust as well, right? So you have to trust that you will be okay, even if you give up, some perceived control, or even if you're not the one calling the shots, especially if that's a position that you're comfortable in. And this is also a card of saying that, like, we can't always be the one in control. We can't always be the leader. We can't always be the teacher. We can't always be the master, right? We have to take turns. We have to honor the flow of energy, right? And so if you're constantly in that position, you're going to be perpetually out of balance. And so this is saying, like, while being the one to kind of take charge and make things happen, to direct other people, and to have, like, your vision executed, while that might be beneficial and there's a time for that, it's like you also kind of have to be the student, right? You have to be the apprentice, because that's what the growth mindset is all about. And in order to really fully connect with prosperity and like abundance mindset, we have to be in that growth mindset. Because if we kind of feel like we always need to be in control, then we're not necessarily open to a variety of experiences or perspectives. We're not really necessarily open to having our horizons broadened. And in doing so, we kind of stunt ourselves, because we operate under the assumption that we're good, we know everything, we have everything we need, and we just need to make it happen. And sometimes we make our lives more difficult because there could be so much more out there for us that might help us get to, our destination even more quickly or smoothly. And we just kind of block ourselves from being able to connect with that, right? So this is all about just trusting that there are things waiting to be revealed, that there's support available to you, and it's kind of like allowing yourself to sit back and see what other people do, see what kind of action they take, and see how you feel about that and how you're going to respond in turn, right? So it's kind of nice. It's got a good flow to it. So I think that if this resonates for you, you have the opportunity to kind of like get more into the flow of things and to see how things are progressing more organically, and to be able to benefit from that without having to be, the only one putting in the work, right? So your first card for this month is showing up as the Moon. Another one. Your second card is the Knight of Pentacles. Your third card is the Page of Cups. And at the bottom of the deck, we have the Nine of Wands. So this is really interesting to me because we've got water energy bookending this earth energy, and earth energy would be your natural energy, which is kind of being in the material world, the world of form, being practical and tangible, taking action, right? It's the act of, investing your time and energy to manifest something physical and tangible, right? So that could be your career, your money, something that you actually like create in form. It could be family, your health, all of that kind of stuff. And that's the energy that's showing up as the challenge. And it's the emotional energy that's kind of, that maybe either what you're currently in or you're currently struggling with, but that's kind of like what you're working with. So we've got the Nine of Wands at the bottom of the deck. Before I get into this, the Nine of Wands at the bottom of the deck, which is basically like the past energy. So that could be deep past, it could be recent past, or something that is still kind of impacting you. That's kind of like informing this energy right now. And the Nine of Wands, like, it could be feeling a little bit protective over your journey, right? Yourself, whatever it is that you are passionate about, right? The ways that you connect with and act on and express your creativity or your inspiration, right? So that could be purely in like terms of a hobby, that could be related to your career, that could be related to your passion, like in relationships and friendships and love and stuff like that. But yeah, there can be kind of a sense of like feeling like you need to have your guard up, or putting a wall up, or, being a little bit on edge that somebody might come and try to knock you off your game, or that you might not, you might be working to stability, and you might be in a place where you're feeling like you're where you want to be, or you're getting closer to where you want to be. And your investment in that might have you feeling like vulnerable, but in a sense that you don't want to be vulnerable, right? So this can be, this can be like having your guard up, having walls up, being on the lookout, right? So especially if you've been in a period where things might have been slowing down, or you haven't necessarily been making a lot of strides forward or seeing things materialize, like you might have gotten, however this might resonate for you, but you might have been working and kind of making steps forward and seeing results. And then you might have gone through a period of things slowing down. Maybe things weren't as busy, maybe not as much work, not as much money, not as much opportunity for connection. And perhaps like the slowing down of things got you into a position where you were moving slowly enough that you were starting to take a look at your surroundings and see like how far you've come, the work that you've put in. But that might have gotten you feeling like a little bit defensive, either defensive because things are slowing down and you're not ready for them to, or because you're in a place where you're feeling more accomplished and you're worried that someone's going to be coming for what you've got, right? So this is basically saying like you're in a good position, you've got a good vantage point to survey the landscape, right? And it wouldn't necessarily suit you to try and move forward, but also you don't want to be so focused on the past and who and what might come up or be after you that you lose sight of that kind of spark of inspiration and how that is meant to guide you, right? So it's kind of like you don't want to be looking out at the world from behind these walls, right? You want to find ways to challenge yourself and embrace that light and share it, right? So this could be a period of like, yeah, feeling like a little hesitant, right? A little hesitant to connect or to open up or to share or even to trust. And what's showing up here in terms of what you need to know, we've got the moon. And so the moon, I think this goes really nicely with this yin energy because the moon is related to water. It's all about love, our emotions, connections, fulfillment, joy, our subconscious, and it is a very feminine kind of energy. And so perhaps the reason why this feminine energy of being soft and open and receptive, like holding space for people, allowing other people to take the lead, and seeing how you can play a support role, what you're being shown and what you can learn, because it seems like now is a really, really important time for you to be having those experiences, to see how you're moved by your emotions, right? And by your subconscious. Because with the moon, this is about, not only being able to honor and bring into balance our dark and our light, but it's also about like things kind of coming to light, things coming to the surface. So you might be in a period of time where if you are feeling a little bit sensitive, or if you're particularly in your feels, or you've got some emotions to work through, you might have stuff even from like the past, like even stuff that happened as a kid or from like past relationships. You might find that there's stuff starting to come up or emotional triggers starting to arise, and you're finding yourself transported back to those experiences and having to kind of look at them in a new light, right? And if you are going through something like that on an emotional level, this is basically saying like to trust whatever's coming up, right? Even in interaction with other people, to trust what's coming up for you. And even if it is associated with a challenging emotion, to recognize that there could very well be a beautiful opportunity for healing, right? So when we can revisit those experiences and those feelings, and get a little bit of perspective on them, we can choose if we want to allow them to sink us, or if we want to allow ourselves to say like, wow, this is something that I didn't even realize was affecting me. And now that it's been brought to light, and now that I know it's there, I can consciously choose that this is not something that's helpful to me. And I can consciously choose how I want to go about remedying or working through or releasing it, right? And it's basically like, this is part of the healing process. And you might also find yourself to be particularly sensitive because this is a deeply intuitive, like there's a lot of psychic awareness that comes with this as well. And it's being able to identify and work with the things that are coming up for you, right? That information, the wisdom, sometimes the pain that your subconscious can kind of allow to bubble up to the surface, right? So it kind of seems like this month is almost more about you dealing with the emotional side of things, and your emotional awareness and healing and well-being. And that may be why we're not necessarily seeing a whole lot of forward movement and taking action, right? So perhaps this is a time for you to kind of be focusing on and diving into your emotions and seeing what your emotions are trying to tell you about yourself and the world around you and your experiences, so that you can kind of claim your power and decide how you want to channel that energy, because the emotional energy is also really important in terms of our creativity and our awareness and our relationship. So it can be really like, it can make us feel as though we're drowning, but when we start to understand and to be able to harness that, it just kind of brings us even more into balance and wholeness as a person, right? So yeah, that's what you need to know right now. So I would say, like, if you've got some emotional stuff going on, especially stuff that you're feeling particularly avoidant of, it's letting yourself be curious about, like, what is coming up and why, and what is the world, what are your experiences trying to show you, and just kind of being open to it, right? Which can be hard because it can be a scary energy, and this can be about the things that we fear, right? The things that we fear that are hiding in the shadows that might come out to sabotage us, whether it's our own like worries and insecurities, whether it's like other people or things that we think are gonna, take our power away. Um, even in periods of darkness, right? When the moon is new, it's still there, even if it's not shining, right? And so sometimes the same happens with us. Sometimes we go through shadow periods where our light is obscured, but, it's still there and it will shine again. And we don't have to judge ourselves when we go through these shadow periods, because this is part of the cycle, right? Just like the lunar cycle, progresses over the course of the month. We have our own cycles in life, and we're not always going to be in the same energy all the time, and so it's about honoring where you are right now and whatever feelings are going hand in hand with that. Your challenge, interestingly enough, is showing up as the Knight of Pentacles, which is, it is a very focused, kind of consistent, slow moving, and steadfast energy. Like, this is the energy that you need to be in order to take your vision, or your dream, or whatever goal it is that you're working toward, and translate that into reality, right? So it's like the steps that you take every day to move forward, in an inspired way to create the end result that you're looking for, right? And this can also be really difficult because, it's easy to dream and to be inspired and to have an idea of how you want things to be. But a lot of times we get so excited about what we're trying to achieve that we may not be realistic, or we may not understand just how much time and effort it's going to take, or just how many days we're going to be showing up, putting in the work, and not necessarily seeing the results or feeling as though we are creating that, that end goal or getting closer. And this is also kind of about, the monotonous parts of, just showing up and doing the work. Like, for example, like if you're trying to lose weight, right? It's not just going to happen overnight. It has to be like a consistent and steady practice, whether it's like, diet and exercise together or just one. But it's like, even if you're motivated and even if you want to achieve that result, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be feeling really fulfilled and really successful with every step that you're taking, right? Like, sometimes we just kind of have to power through, taking that action and trusting that we're moving forward and trusting those results that we're looking for are in process. And for this to show up as your challenge, this could be in the sense that it can be difficult or discouraging to remain focused on the end goal and keep putting the work in when things are feeling a little bit boring or stagnant, or, if you've got fear creeping in that you're not going to be successful, or that the work that you've put in thus far hasn't gotten you anywhere. So there could be some self-sabotage in terms of your ability to just kind of power through the less glamorous parts of consciously, consistently showing up in the energy of what you're trying to manifest. Or this could be that perhaps you're very accustomed to taking those steps and putting in that effort, and there's kind of like this slow and steady move forward, and perhaps that goes hand in hand with having a difficulty taking a step back, right? Taking a step back, paying attention to what people are doing and saying, letting other people take their first steps, right? Because when we are putting the work in and we're always kind of at the front of the pack and we're telling other people what to do and we're executing our vision, we don't really have a good pulse on what's going on because we're kind of controlling every aspect of it. And sometimes it's not until you take a step back and you allow other people to take the reins that you get insight as to what's going on with them. You might not know what kind of skill set someone has if you're always kind of telling them what to do and when to do it, right? Because they haven't necessarily had the freedom or the space to demonstrate who they are and what they're capable of, right? And so we can kind of operate based on bias and make assumptions, and those assumptions will be proven correct based on, how we're controlling the situation. But there is a beauty in taking a step back and not always needing to be, to remain consistent in moving in the direction of your choosing, but to, relinquish a little bit of that control and to take a step back and see so there might be a big focus on success, right? And money and career and, getting jobs or making money or amassing savings or moving toward your material stability. That could have you feeling as though you can't, take a step back. You can't let someone else take the lead. You can't just rest, right? Then it's like if you're not out there connecting with and creating opportunities, maybe you feel like there aren't any available to you. And if you were to just sit back and rest, nothing would happen. And this is saying you can trust that even if you're still focused on your end goal and what you're trying to achieve, that sometimes rest and allowing the way to kind of be shown to you, it can actually make the steps forward easier in the long run, right? Than constantly being on the go. So that's really interesting. So whatever your relationship to work, putting in the work, taking those small consistent steps and moving forward and accomplishing things in a way that is going to allow for the physical manifestation of whatever it is you're trying to create, whatever your relationship to that energy is, you will know. But this tends to be like a slow, steady kind of just keep going type energy. And maybe that is what is interfering with the ability to kind of take a step back and just being open to receive, being open to be a student of life and your experiences and the people around you instead of being the teacher all the time. Because we want to have that balance in relationships. And then your advice in terms of how to work with this energy is, funny enough, showing up as the Page of Cups. So again, that connects to love, like our inspiration and creativity, our joy and fulfillment. And the thing that I really love about this Page of Cups specifically is usually the page is kind of at the beginning of a journey. So there's a sense of, immaturity, right? Like the person is not fully formed. The path is not fully clear. It's kind of like, it's being in your infancy in terms of venturing out in the direction you want to go in or to move toward whatever it is that you're looking to manifest. And this is a really, really daydreamy kind of energy, right? And it's recognizing that as much as we put a lot of value on the material side of things, right? Like showing up, doing the work, making the money, spending the money, right? That we can get really, really caught up in the material side of things. And that can cause us to neglect the emotional and intuitive side. And we don't want to be in either or, right? We want to be in a position where we're able to take all of those skills and abilities that each one of the elements kind of represents and bring them into harmony, right? And assess the situation and use those strengths in ways that are going to keep us balanced, but also let us benefit from a wider range of skills, right? So rather than just, moving forward and doing the hard work, this is saying sometimes when we sit and we allow ourselves the space to daydream, right? To see what kind of opportunities might be available. Sometimes that's a really, really important part of the process, because it's really hard to hear your intuition when you're always busy and you're always focused and you're always in the midst of trying to do something, right? So this is kind of like being versus doing. If you're always doing, it's not allowing a huge amount of time and space for you to just be. And when you're just being and you're quiet and you're present, so like maybe taking some time to reflect, meditating, that kind of stuff, you kind of have to create an open, quiet space and to remain still in order to allow, that inner wisdom to come through. And that can also be in the form of like feelings, and it can be thoughts, and it can be sparks of inspiration and creativity. And so this is saying like, you can still be perfectly grounded and practical while taking a rest and giving yourself the space to daydream, right? Because we've got a flying pig and we've got this cup of possibility here, and he's kind of like astral projecting out of his body. So the thing that I really love about this card is that it kind of signifies exactly what we're here to do, right? We are spiritual beings having like a physical body, having a material experience, right? And so we're not meant to just exist solely in our bodies and like eat, sleep, work, die is what I've been saying in some of the other readings, right? And we're not meant to just solely live in a daydream state where we are kind of so out in the ether that we're disconnected from our material existence and we're not moving forward. We're kind of meant to bring those into harmony, and we are conduits, right? So this is kind of an illustration of how we are conduits, right? Because we are material, we're in the material world, but we have the ability to connect with this gigantic, vast universe of energy and inspiration and creativity. And we can channel that information and take action on it. And so anything that we dream of, we can become inspired by, and that can inspire our actions and how we show up in the world, which will ultimately start to create the very thing that inspires us in the world, like that's in the world of form, right? So that's how inspiration works, right? So if it's a feeling that you're of hope or excitement or love that you are motivated by, then that is going to be imbued in everything that you do. And that is going to be radiated outward. And that's what you're going to see starting to take shape. And that's what you're going to attract back to you. So this is saying like, it's also like, if you can dream it, you can do it, right? So not to focus so much on the limitations of the world of form, because although we live in the world of form, we're like in the world of form, but not of it, right? And so it's about not neglecting the spiritual, intuitive, kind of dreamy side of us, because that's exactly where we get our inspiration from. And the only way that we change the world for the better is to connect with a vision for something better and to be moved by it and to put that out into the world, right? And we can't do that if we're just constantly just slaving away, focusing on only the material aspects of life. So the beautiful thing is when it comes to your emotions and your subconscious and your intuition, it seems like there's a huge amount of possibility there. And there's a lot to be connected with. There's a lot for you to see. And especially if you feel like, I don't know, maybe you're lacking inspiration, or maybe you're feeling things are slowing down, or you're in need of clarity. This really, really supports just kind of slowing down, quieting down, going inward and seeing like, what are you being guided to see, right? And what is coming up for you just organically without you having to make a plan or take steps or take action, right? So giving a little bit more time to just be and seeing what comes up, because if you can dream it, you can do it. Like, you may not think, right? We apply expectations in terms of like what we think is possible or how things can happen. And then we kind of commit ourselves to that, which means that if we don't see the opportunity for even the most unlikely things to happen, and we shut ourselves off from it before we can even take a step forward, then yeah, we've decided it's impossible, and then we're not going to allow it to. But it's like, if you allow yourself to daydream and recognize that there's value in that, and you allow yourself to be moved by that feeling, and you're open to how that might take shape instead of needing to figure it all out and make it happen, you might be pleasantly surprised, because this is also really deeply connected to love and happiness and fulfillment. So if that's something that you are missing or something that you're trying to cultivate more of, it definitely starts with you, and it's inside and it's out there in the universe. Just kind of waiting for you to make some space to connect and align with it. And especially if you're an intuitive person, like, you'll know. Maybe you've been putting off taking time to do the things that help you get tuned into yourself, or doing like the emotional work, the inner work, because you've been too busy, or you've been too focused on, like, you need to be productive. And this is saying, like, you can rest a little bit. You can rest, and you can use that time for yourself. So I'm going to get you a couple of oracle messages. I just dumped a whole bunch on the floor. I'm kind of curious to see what comes out for you guys with this Crystal Spirits Oracle, because when I was pre-shuffling for your reading, there were a bunch of green cards showing up. And so, like, green is usually associated with the heart chakra. It's also associated, so like, with love, emotions, but it can also be associated with, like, prosperity, right? Like green, abundance. Okay, so we got like a bluish, greenish one, chrysocolla. And actually, I think I have one here. I'm pretty sure that is what this stone is, if I'm not mistaken. Okay, so I'm just going to read what this says directly from the guidebook. And you can see how that resonates. It might have some additional messages for you. So the essential meaning is speaking your truth, heartfelt communication, and right speech. When you speak your truth, you are being true to your soul's desire to participate in the co-creation of a better world and a better life for you. Chrysocolla Spirit's message for clear, authentic speech that arises from your heart is this: the force of the conscious universe's love is here for you today as you choose to speak up and speak out, for you can be a clear channel for what needs to be said. Your voice is so very important, for you are a unique being with your own calling and destiny, and the conscious universe expresses truth through you. Practice choosing your words consciously as you voice a difficult truth or speak up on behalf of someone who has felt powerless for too long. Be assured that because of your commitment to heartfelt communication, your voice will ring out, cutting through the noise today. Relationship, it says, trust and intimacy build when we have the courage to speak our truth. And today, Chrysocolla Spirit is here for you to support you in your right speech. Speak your truth as you see it from the heart, using words that express the very best of you. Don't hold your tongue out of fear that you aren't enough or don't deserve to have your say. Practice telling the truth with love as a sign of respect for yourself and your experiences as you have lived them, and your emotions as you have felt them. Claim your voice and use it wisely and honorably, for many truths make up the collective truth we all share, and yours is no less valid than anyone else's and deserves to be heard. Prosperity. We often remain silent because we don't want to hurt anyone's feelings or be embarrassed, but Chrysocolla Spirit has appeared to tell you that right now is not a time to hold back your truth. Practice right speech, expressing yourself in a loving and honorable way as you discuss your business and financial dealings. Speak up about what you need and desire and what you are thinking and perceiving when it comes to the flow of money and your own desire to experience prosperity. You will be heard today. At the same time, recognize that any truths you hear from others are their truths and have value for all. Listen carefully, setting aside any defensiveness and tuning into the heart of what others are saying. You can learn much today if you are willing, much that will help you in your quest to have a firm financial foundation. And then there's meditation. Chrysocolla is an excellent stone to use when we need assistance in speaking up and speaking our truth. Meditation with this stone helps open and clear the throat chakra, allowing the words of the heart to rise up and be expressed. Chrysocolla teaches us to be aware that our words carry vibration through sound and asks us to be conscious of what vibration we are choosing to send out into the world. And I like that, because even though we're in this receptive energy, it's like, that doesn't mean that you're muting yourself, right? It doesn't mean that you are taking a step back in the sense that you're not honoring yourself. So perhaps this time of being open and receptive, it's more about you getting deeper in touch with yourself and ensuring that, the way that you are showing up and communicating is fair and true and authentic, right? So for example, like, not telling people what they want to hear, not speaking out on a subject because, people expect that it's something that you should take a stance on or something like that, but just sharing what you truly feel and what your perspective is authentically, and trusting that there's a space for it, that it's valid, and it's an important part of the narrative, right? And so the more that you can show up in that genuine energy and share that with others and be open to their truths as well, because, it's not either or, black and white. We are a collective of humans, and we've all got unique experiences and perspectives, and yours is just as important as someone else's. And the more that we're able to kind of openly share and to be receptive to other people, the more we're able to find points of connection, and the more we're going to be able to learn from other people, even if we don't necessarily agree with their perspective. We don't have to fight them. We don't have to change their minds, just like they don't have to change ours. And we can still honor ourselves and express ourselves authentically and be open and respectful to other people and other opinions, right? That's also part of like being the student and the teacher. So that's really cool. And your final oracle message is birthing a new age, birthing new creations, dreaming a new world into being. What other sign this month got this? I don't remember who it was though. Oh, maybe it was Leo, because I already have the book open to that page, and Leo was the last reading that I did. So something to keep in mind if you have any connection to Leo. So I'll read from the book. Often our path is exactly the one we don't feel prepared to walk. Walk it anyway. Often what is rising feels far bigger than we could possibly hold. Be a container for it anyway. Often our creations seem to have a wild, uncontrollable consciousness of their own. Birth them anyway. Often what is ours to do is the very thing that most intimidates us. Be courageous and do it anyway. We are birthing a new age. Right now, we're in a transition period between ages, in the process of allowing the old cycle to fall away and the new to rise. Like driving in the fog and trusting the road will appear ahead, we need to release our old identities in ways that no longer serve us, using our intuition as a compass. So that could be part of this too, right? You are part of a group of souls who have been incarnating at significant periods of history, preparing for this exact time, dreaming a new world into being. Magdalene sisters, daughters of Isis, Asanas, priestesses, witches, mystics, healers, seers, artists, midwives, visionaries, guardians of the earth, and storytellers from times past. It is time to give permission and space for what is beckoning within to be born. We are dreaming a new world into being. So this could be like whatever it is that you're inspired to create, right? Whatever it is that you're passionate about. And there's an activation to go along with it. It says to hold the card on your heart and say the following. So if that's something that interests you, I'll just hold the card here. You can envision yourself doing so. So it says, I am open to surrendering to the creations that are wanting to be birthed through me. May I be of service in a way that delights my mind, body, and soul. Please use me. Please lead me. Please show me the way. My hand just got really hot. Like my palm was just like radiating heat the whole time I was saying that. That's wild. Okay, so I am quickly going to share with you a couple of channeled messages I connected with before we started the reading, and then I'll get you a few affirmations and we'll tie your reading up there. So the first message that came through for you guys, it was just oak, like oak tree, oak wood. You might have a connection to oak specifically. But yeah, and funny enough, like oak cabinets was one thing that stood out. So that might be, I don't know, something bizarre and specific for one person. But the other thing that came through was like the spiritual significance of oak or the oak tree. And so I did a quick search just to have some information for you guys. And it said that the oak tree has long been associated is like a good, like kind of like a spiritual totem, right? That imbues longevity, strength, stability, endurance, fertility, power, justice, and honesty. So yeah, I don't know if you are connected to it or that idea. Perhaps that might be perhaps that is a spirit totem for you. Perhaps you might want to do a little bit more reading and connect, maybe getting out into nature might be of assistance, but especially if those are qualities that you are looking to connect with and further cultivate and express, oak spirit could be helpful in doing so if you're open to that. The next message that came through for you was forgetfulness. So this could be you or someone else. But yeah, just a sense of being particularly forgetful, right? So it's like not remembering where you put things, not remembering to respond to messages, or, you know, it could be large scale or small scale. And it might be something that you're aware of and already trying to work on, or maybe, you know, it's not striking you until I'm saying something, whatever. It may or may not be for you. But yeah, so what I would say came up in association with that is making sure you're getting lots of rest, making sure that you're grounding your energy, you're taking time to kind of reflect and go inward, getting into your body. So it's like out of that doing and into being. Because sometimes what happens is that our energy, right, gets a little bit out of alignment, right? So our physical body might be here right now doing one thing, but our mental body might be like miles away, and we can even like spiritually be out of body as well. So you might just be having a little bit of an issue in terms of reining all of that in. And so a really good way to center your energy and to get back into the moment is to get into your body, move your body. Food is healing in that sense, grounding meditations, and yeah, just kind of like getting back into the present moment, because chances are it's just that like your mind just might have wandered off while you're doing something and you didn't actually like integrate that information. And the other thing that I will say is like vitamins and supplements came up in association with that, and specifically B12, vitamin B12. And I was pretty sure that was associated with memory, but I also did a check and it said that yes, it's vitamin B12 is really important for improving energy levels. It helps boost memory, and it also helps elevate your mood and decrease depressive symptoms. So yeah, it might be worth checking if your diet is out of balance or if you're not taking any supplements. Vitamin B12 might be something worth taking if you have an interest. And obviously that's not medical advice. I'm not a doctor. And the final message that came through for you was Dancing in the Moonlight. So the song, I think the original one was from the 70s by King Harvest, but there have been so many remakes, and I know there's another one that's kind of like techno, easy listen. I don't even know what you would qualify it as, but it's kind of having a bit of a resurgence right now. So I would give that song a listen, whatever version appeals to you, or at the very least look up the lyrics and see how that makes you feel, if it resonates for you. Because the whole vibe, it's kind of like yeah, I don't know, it's kind of like a feel good, like it's hard to be stressed and frazzled when you're dancing and moving your body. So yeah, if you're somebody who gets a little bit tightly wound or anxious, perhaps music, dance might be something that helps get you into the moment and relieve some of that stress, helps you to connect with other people, experience a little bit more peace and joy. And that song in general, you may already have a connection to or may be significant, but just thought I would put it out there. Right, so we're going to get you a couple affirmations and we will finish off. So these affirmations may be beneficial to you right here and right now. They might be helpful over the next few weeks. So it might be something worth just making note of. Obviously, affirmations, you can use them daily, multiple times a day. But yeah, these are just a few affirmations that might be helpful to you based on the energy of this reading. So your first is, Obsessing over the outcome of a relationship gets in the way. Instead, I let go and allow. So that's also part of like getting into the flow of things, like letting people take the lead, letting people show you who they are, not trying to kind of influence or control, but to see like where your situation is leading you. And ultimately, like, if something is not meant to be, it will not be. And there's no amount of effort that you can put into forcing it, because inevitably it will crumble. And same thing, if something is meant to be, a lot of the time, we can only avoid it for so long. And so getting into the flow and just seeing what life is trying to show us allows us to honor our journey, our experiences in the other person, and just kind of let things go as they're meant to, and to kind of have some curiosity and be open to receiving. Your next affirmation, to relinquish control, I simply let loose and allow myself to be more childlike. Yeah, so there we go. There's another one of just kind of like giving up control, kind of releasing those expectations, giving yourself a safe space to just kind of relax, to play, to experience joy, and to receive some of the beautiful gifts that are available to you that you're only able to receive when you've got a still kind of space to be receptive and welcome that energy into. And then I can release ancient pain simply by feeling it. So that does kind of go hand in hand. Oh, we're running out of room here. That does go hand in hand with this moon energy for me. Like I was saying, there might be, I don't know, there could have been traumatic things from your past. We've all got our stuff, but you might be feeling particularly emotional, or you might have things that are triggering, that are connected to your past. And some of that may not even be yours. Some of it may be generational, and it's okay to allow yourself to feel and release it. So I think it's just important to move with the flow of your emotions and honor that, and recognize that that's kind of, allowing those things to be brought to light and figuring out how we want to move forward. It's a really healthy way of approaching that kind of stuff. And a lot of time we don't have to overanalyze it, and, we don't have to make an identity out of it or carry it with us. So this is a really beautiful month for being open to the flow of life, to receiving what's available to you, and to releasing what is ready to go, just by getting into your emotions and giving some time and space to honor that. So I think that's really beautiful, Virgo. I'm going to leave your reading there. I hope this was helpful. If you did find this reading to be enjoyable or helpful in any way, the best way to support me is to like this video on YouTube. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think or how it resonated. Beyond that, if there's anyone you can think of that might be interested in my readings, you can feel free to share my channel or my content with them. And if you haven't already, make sure you hop on over to my channel at Bright Soul Collective Tarot. Ensure you're not only subscribed to the channel, but also signed up for notifications, which is that little bell icon that will keep you up to date on new readings as they're posted. So Virgo, I hope the rest of March is good to you. This is really promising energy. And it seems like there's a lot of really great stuff available for you guys. So it's been an absolute pleasure reading for you. And I'm excited to have the opportunity to connect again next month. But in the meantime, I'm wishing you all the very best.